Lesson 158. Mixed conditionals. If plus past perfect plus would do or would be doing. If I had gone to bed earlier yesterday, I would feel better now. If plus past plus would have done. If my job wasn't so demanding, I would have come to your birthday dinner last week. Give me an example of a mixed conditional where we imagine a situation in the past and then imagine the consequence of that in the present, please.
If Susan had studied harder when she was at school, she probably wouldn't be unemployed now.
Give me an example of a mixed conditional where we imagine a situation in the present and then imagine the consequence of that in the past, please.
If you weren't his brother, he would have been far angrier with you for taking his car last night.
Awful. Mood. Name a film you think is truly awful.
I think the film Titanic is truly awful.
When you're in an awful mood, are you sometimes able to hide it so that other people don't notice?
Yes, when I'm in an awful mood, I'm sometimes able to hide it so that other people don't notice.
Frame. Frame of mind. What do we call the wooden or metal border round a picture or window?
We call the wooden or metal border round a picture or window a frame.
What are bed frames usually made of?
Bed frames are usually made of wood or metal.
What frame of mind do you usually feel in when you go to work or to school?
I usually feel in a positive frame of mind when I go to work.
Lump. Do you prefer soup with lumps of meat and vegetables in it, or do you prefer plain soup?
I prefer soup with lumps of meat and vegetables in it to plain soup.
Train. How long does it take to train a doctor?
It takes about 6 years to train a doctor.
Clerk. Clerical. What do we mean by a clerk?
By a clerk, we usually mean a person who does written work in an office.
Is clerical work generally well paid?
No, clerical work isn't generally well paid.
Hook. Are there any hooks for hanging coats on in this room?
Yes, there are some hooks for hanging coats on in this room.
Resign. Why might a person decide to resign from their job?
A person might decide to resign from their job because they've found a better job, they don't like their job, etc.
Tremble. Shiver. What's my hand doing?
Your hand's trembling.
Which verb do we normally use to describe the action of trembling because it's very cold?
We normally use the verb shiver to describe the action of trembling because it's very cold.
Ditch. Excess. Why do they often put a ditch round a field?
They often put a ditch round a field to allow the excess water to flow away from the field.
Pie. Pastry. What do we use to make a pie?
We use pastry and some meat and vegetables or fruit to make a pie.
Strict. Are children less likely to disobey a teacher if the teacher is strict?
Yes, children are less likely to disobey a teacher if the teacher is strict.
What's another meaning of the word strict?
Another meaning of the word strict is exact.
Give me an example, please.
What he said was not strictly true.
Revenge. Repay. Wrong. Satisfying. What do we mean by the expression, revenge is sweet?
By the expression, revenge is sweet, we mean that when we have been wronged by somebody, it is satisfying to repay the wrong by getting our revenge on them.
Dive. Advisable. Is it advisable to dive into shallow water?
No, it isn't advisable to dive into shallow water.
Why not?
Because you might hit your head on the bottom.
Do divers sometimes find lost treasure in old shipwrecks?
Yes, divers sometimes find lost treasure in old shipwrecks.
Promote. Promotion. Income. When someone is promoted at work, is the promotion almost always accompanied by a rise in income?
Yes, when a person is promoted at work, the promotion is almost always accompanied by a rise in income.
Network. Log on. Log in. Password. Does one usually need to enter a password to log on to a wireless network?
Yes, one usually needs to enter a password to log on to a wireless network.
Which do you think would help your country more? Developing the rail network or developing the road network?
I think developing the rail network would help my country more than developing the road network.
Committee. Parliamentary. What's a committee?
A committee is a group of people appointed to deal with a particular matter. Usually this group is part of a larger organisation.
Do you think committees are usually able to make better decisions than individuals?
Yes, I think committees are usually able to make better decisions than individuals.
Cough. What am I doing?
You're coughing.
Reward. How can certain animals, like dogs and horses, be trained to behave in a particular way and do tricks?
Certain animals, like dogs and horses, can be trained to behave in a particular way and do tricks by giving the animal a reward each time it behaves in the correct way.
Twist. Have you ever twisted an ankle?
Yes, I've twisted an ankle.
To one's taste. In a restaurant, if the food has been cooked well, but is simply not to your taste, do you call the waiter and complain, or do you just eat what you've been given?
In a restaurant, if the food has been cooked well, but is simply not to my taste, I don't call the waiter and complain, I just eat what I've been given.
Coward. What's the opposite of a brave or courageous person?
The opposite of a brave or courageous person is a coward.
Rust. What happens to iron when it is left in a damp atmosphere?
When iron is left in a damp atmosphere, it rusts.
Stroke. Why would a stroke from an axe cut deeper into a block of wood than a stroke from a sword?
A stroke from an axe would cut deeper into a block of wood than a stroke from a sword because an axe is much heavier than a sword.
How many strokes of the pen does it take to form the capital letter N?
It takes 3 strokes of the pen to form the capital letter N.
Do cats enjoy being stroked?
Yes, cats enjoy being stroked.